Well, Immigration Minister Chris Bowen insists he won't resign over the government's humiliating defeat on asylum seekers. It's forced Prime Minister Julia Gillard to return to onshore processing, and the opposition is demanding Mr Bowen quit. Minister Bowen spoke to political reporter Lane Calcutt in Canberra earlier today.
Minister, 12 months ago, a little over 12 months ago, when the Prime Minister took over from Kevin Rudd, this was one of the big issues she said she'd sort out. How did we get to this?
Well, what she said is we needed a regional framework. We needed arrangements with other countries. That's what we delivered. We delivered an arrangement with Malaysia. People said we wouldn't be able to do it. Now, then we had the High Court case, and now Tony Abbott's decided to play politics instead of letting the government get on with the job of delivering offshore processing to stop boat arrivals, break the people smugglers' business model. We've really achieved in the last 12 months in terms of regional engagement, agreements with other countries, things that people said we'd never been able to achieve. Now, all we ask is Mr Abbott to get out of the way and let us get on with implementing those.
Are you humiliated by this? The High Court legally has beaten you. Tony Abbott, at least as far as public perceptions are concerned, has beaten you at every turn.
Well, the High Court changed the law, and the change in the law applies to the Malaysia arrangement, applies to Papua New Guinea, it would apply to Nauru. So when the game changes like that, I think the Australian people would say, well, why don't our politicians work together to get this sorted out? We made that offer to the Liberal Party. We said we were prepared to sit down and work the issues through. The Prime Minister said to Mr Abbott, if you've got issues, let's talk about them. Mr Abbott just said, actually, I want to play politics. And I think that's very disappointing for the nation.
Don't the people also say, you're the government, you should have sorted this out?
Well, I think they look to all political leaders. I think the Australian people understand this as a parliament where the government needs support of others to get legislation through. In this case, the Labor Party and the Greens have a very different policy. We'll never vote the same way. The Liberal Party and the Labor Party actually both have a policy of offshore processing. I think the Australian people would say, well, hang on, if a political party says they support offshore processing, wouldn't they vote for it?
Are we going to see more boats coming?
Look, I do think you can expect people smugglers to be out there saying, look, the High Court's made its ruling, the Australian politicians can't sort it out, so we'll settle you a ticket to Australia. I think we've seen a big reduction. I know we've seen a big reduction in boat arrivals, particularly after the announcement of the Malaysia arrangement. You can expect to see that people smugglers would be back in business selling their wares.
Scott Morrison says you should resign. Have you at any stage considered that or offered to resign?
Look, this is just typical hyperbole from Mr Morrison. He's got this weird logic. He's got legislation in the House which he's been told is in the national interest. All the advice is it's in the national interest. He won't vote for it, and by some perverse logic he says I should resign. I just don't get that logic. I treat that with the disdain it deserves.
But the answer is no.
No, that's correct.